Okay, welcome everyone. Thanks so much for being here. If you're here, put a little note in the comments so that we know you can hear us and see us and all of that good stuff. I'm going to jump right into it so we don't waste any time because we have a whole bunch of cool things to cover today. So welcome to the Massage Boss Show, where I get to talk with amazing members of the massage community and just cover all the things that you want to know. Today, I am meeting with Desmond, who is a massage therapist, an amazing human being generally, and knows about so many cool topics in regard to finances and other things, I'm sure, as well. But today, we will be covering his expertise in how to be financially secure as a massage therapist, which I know is something that we all wonder about. And if you just joined, just say hi in the comments so that I know you can actually hear and see us. I would love to know that you're there. And if you have any questions that you want us to cover during the call, please feel free to put them there as well. We'll have a little question time at the end, or we'll try to answer them as we go along. Okay, little housekeeping items. I'm Julie Campbell. I am a former massage therapist and massage business owner. I had a massage business here in Portland, Oregon. Yay, welcome. Thanks for saying hi. I owned that business for about 10 years, which is now owned by the massage therapist who worked for me. It's called Written on the Body. If you ever want to check it out, it's pretty cool that it still lives on. And now I am a digital marketer / business coach for massage therapists. I love this community so much. And I love the business side. And I think it's pretty rare to have a massage therapist who loves both business and massage, which is why I do the work that I do. I love helping massage therapists succeed. And I really love doing these chats. They're like the favorite part of my work right now. So thanks so much for being here, and make sure you subscribe because I do these every month with different experts. The next one's going to be with TK Barlow on taxes and accounting. So more money wisdom coming your way. And I will post about that in the description of this video later on today so that you have some details about that. All right, just so you know what to do, if you have questions along the way, don't save them. Go ahead and pop them in the chat. Even if we cannot answer them right away, I will be keeping notes and we will try to get to them all at the end if we don't get to them throughout. If we do not get to them by the end, we will either do a follow-up chat to answer them or find another way to connect with you and get those answered for you. I will also share my and Dan's contact information. If you want to reach out to us, we're always open to chat. We love chatting with other people in the field. So don't be shy. Feel free to reach out. I've already put that information in the description of the video, so you can find it there anytime. And I'll pop it into the chat at the end as well. All right, without further ado, today we're going to be talking about all things money for massage therapists and how to find security and really calmness and balance with money in your practice. I am so excited to have Dan here. I have been connected with Dan for a bit. I'm not sure how long ago we met on Facebook, I believe. I think it was Facebook, not Instagram. Yeah. And just, found that we have very similar interest and community, and just have been interacting online for a while. And I definitely saw so much value in the content that Dan shares. So if you don't follow him on social media, you should. It's Aligned to Thrive, which again, I put in the description on Instagram, and Dan Desmond on Facebook. But I will allow Dan to introduce himself, and then we'll jump into the questions I have for you today.
Well, awesome. Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Hey, Julie, thank you. I feel really, really grateful to be here. And despite the background, I am not in Maine, but I often like surrounding myself with having to have the intention of like how I want to live my life. And this is a kind of like a retirement kind of thing. It's like one of the things I like to do in my life is having that like vision board, something I remember doing like a long time ago and even before massage school, and like, how do you cultivate something that you don't have now? And so hence the background. So I am a massage therapist here in Tucson, Arizona. So very much not like Maine, but I like that contrast. So I've been doing massage therapy it's coming up this August. I will have graduated 23 years ago. So it's been a couple days in the field.
Time.
Yeah, just a little bit of time. But I've been seeing that more and more people in our space. I remember when I first started out and like the kind of like the grand vision of things, like what's possible. And I remember that, first couple of days in school, and they were asking, circling people up and like, why are you here? What do you want to do? What do you want to get out of this experience? Like, what's your intention? And I knew that I got to the bodywork space. I was surrounded with a lot of massage therapists as even like early 20s. I went to a really alternative college here in Northern Arizona. So lots of like very earthy based, like I was like really into herbs and outdoor survival kind of stuff. I come from that kind of background. And I knew I, for some reason, dated massage therapists. It was like, I wasn't even trying. It just was like in the field. I just liked that kind of space. So I remember at one point, one of my girlfriends said, why don't you go to massage school? And I thought at the same time, like, I thought it was, I was very naive. I thought it was just for women. I had no idea. I grew up in New York, like kind of go-getter in that kind of way. But as I went through it more and more and more, I was like, oh, I really love holistic health and wellness. I love all things healing. Do I want to go back to school for another 2, 3, 4+ years? I started looking at like a lot of people, coming into massage therapy, going into school, like they're interested in maybe it's people, they like stuff with their body. For me, I also wanted more time freedom. I really liked backpacking and being outdoors. And I'd done various different jobs. I worked with troubled teens. I'd done some stuff in the woods. I had done a lot of like food related services. And I wasn't quite sure. So I put myself in school here in Tucson, and it was an actual amazing school at the time, and just got great education. And I always figured, oh, it's just going to be a part-time thing. Well, part-time turned into full-time. I got really, really good. I liked working with people. I got better at the skills. I worked for somebody for about a year and a half, but I always knew I've kind of been a kind of serial entrepreneur in some ways, all the way from, when I was a young kid, like mowing lawns and shoveling snow, all the way to paper routes and everything else. And a year and a half out of it, I started working for myself. And those situations just kept on popping up. It was like community spaces where I was renting space, and I loved all the people I was working with. And I did that for a really long time. Up until actually about 4 years ago, my wife and I, who's been a massage therapist longer than I have, we both decided, I think it's time to actually do something ourselves. So we thought about like commercial spaces around here, and nothing seemed to be a fit. And then the actual architect who designed our master bedroom in our house said, like you have a big enough yard, we can actually create a backyard bodywork office, like totally legit. Everything's side entrance, bathroom, everything that you need to do. Cool. And so, yeah, we started drawing out the plans of it. And it was like, I started to see, I had done a coaching program back, Brendan Burchard, who does like high performance coaching. I did a program, and I remember being the first week I started, I was actually in Maui with my wife at the time. We weren't even married, but I was like envisioning, they would say like, now with one of my mentors, he says like, if you want to really envision something beautiful, like be in a beautiful place, like be in an expansive place, because you can really think outside of your boundaries as to what's normal. So I was there and just thinking, and I didn't know how that was going to happen, but I just had this vision. Oh, it'd be really nice to have our own space. And I remember years in the past, I was always focusing on how to do it, and like so technical and getting into the exact specifics. And so many people fail to move forward because they're so focusing on the how versus like the bigger vision. And then just cultivating, start talking about, start envisioning it, start doing it, moving like steps forward. So tying this back into the money piece, it's just, we use finances like every day. We breathe, we eat, like money comes in, money goes, and circulation, cash flow. It is a flow. It's like an energetic flow, like Bruce Lee talked about, like fluid movement. And I think as we can realize that, when I realize that more, as I'm actually funneling money through my business by giving value to people, and not trying to hold on to it. There's specific strategies to deal with money so you actually can build it. But that sense of fluidity and connection and affluence inside myself just puts it right back into place, and money just does start flowing. So kind of a long intro there.
I like it though. Yeah, that's cool. And I want to dive into that more because I'm sure that's piqued everyone's interest. Like, how do I get there if you're not already? But first, before we dive into that, I want to know, how did you get into this realm of financial management, financial expertise, I guess that's what I want to call it. Yeah. How did you get to this place where you are now, where you kind of help others with financials?
Yeah, I think the bottom line crude answer is a lot of mistakes. Just the road of life. I was a massage therapist for, I think for the first 6, 7, even 8 years, I was primarily solo. I wasn't married, didn't have kids. I was able to work when I wanted to. And I loved that freedom. And I was really into outdoor stuff. I backpacked a ton and just would work for, 4, 5, 6 weeks and then take off for a week and then just repeat that cycle. And it was like, that was me investing in my current state. I wasn't thinking so much about the future.
Right.
And then I found out in a blink of an eye, I was going to become a dad. And it was like the deer in the headlights moment of, ooh, like I know how to do for me really, really well. Like I figured that part out. I come from like the outdoor survival fields. I know how to do that part, but this was like a whole different level.
Yeah.
And then, her mom, my now daughter, who's turning 14 in just a couple of months, she's going to be, her mom had a really tough pregnancy. So she was in bed a lot. So a lot of the providing piece came back to me. And so I really had to step up my game, and I wasn't sure what that was going to look like, but like what a lot of people do is just work more.
Yeah.
And I got good at that. And that's when I really started to see like, maybe I could actually, I needed to make more money. I needed to, and I was looking into other ways, how do I do that? And so not only working more, but I then started to go, maybe it is time to actually raise my prices. I've heard from massage coaches and forever, like raise your prices. Like, oh, it's okay. I shouldn't really do that because I'm comfortable with this. Well, this was like a real deep need. So I started burn the candle at both ends, worked a lot and made more money than I'd made. I almost doubled my income within 6 months. And it was really made me see like when you have a need, you can get creative.
Yeah.
But then from that, I just, like most people, they overdo and then they burn out.
Yeah.
And I couldn't afford to burn out. So I just kept going and started thinking, like, how do I get better at this? How do I get better at this? So that's how it initiated years later, so now it's almost 14 years later. I have a son as well. And so, a married man with a house and all the things. And so I got better and better about how to do those things. I wasn't investing for my future. I was like very much in the moment, like most massage therapists, which is part of our gift. I think it's just actually being very, very present. And a lot of people tend to kind of beat themselves up though. I could have, should have, would have like done things in the past, but we get to often, a lot of us focus on our health, our vibrancy, our connection, our ability to connect with other people, which lasts an entire lifetime. So
that's a good point. Yeah.
Whether you're starting, like you're really hungry for that in your 20s, most people, it's not going to really start hitting until at least 30s, maybe 40s.
Yeah.
Like it becomes more of a piece. So that was how I started in that field.
I love that story. And I think it's very easy to relate to that because I think a lot of us learn the hard way and also end up getting propelled into something that we really need because of a circumstance that we weren't expecting. So thanks for sharing that. My next question for you is, okay, so we have a lot of people, obviously, in the massage world and a lot of people who've joined right now that probably don't really know the first thing about getting started with, being smart with money or working smarter, not harder. A lot of the things that you've said, you've learned the hard way. So I'd love for you to share a bit of your expertise around where someone who's never really known even where to begin with this could start creating financial security and abundance for themselves being a massage therapist.
Yeah, great question. I think first just honoring where you're at. It's like at different stages of your life. I mean, whether you're my age, I'm 51 now, and it's like, I can't believe I'm 51. How did that happen? Like,
right.
It does happen. I was just starting out. I was in my mid 20s in massage school, and going, okay, like you've gotten this far, like, and you're probably doing things better than you did before, and some things not so good, but you're learning along the road. So wherever you are, it's totally great. It's perfect. So the other part is, some people haven't ever, let's say, built up like an emergency fund, or they started doing some kind of investing. Maybe they're too scared of it. They didn't ever heard about it. Most people are not educated in finance. I mean, we're educated, at least in the United States, to spend money.
Right.
Like we're really, really cultured to do that. At commercials, they buy this. If you don't have a car, or to the point, I remember an old commercial that said, if you don't have a car, you're a loser. And I was like, oh, it's a little intense, but basically that's the message. Like, okay, spend, and you're going to feel better. Yeah, there's a dopamine hit that happens when you go out shopping. I get it, but the long-term picture. So when I started to see, wow, if I can start saving something today, like if I save $1, that dollar in 5 or 10 years isn't going to be $1 anymore. If I save it under my pillow, it's going to be $1, but it's actually going to be depreciated because there's this thing called inflation. Like things are more expensive, as everybody knows today, now more than ever. Like people talk about eggs or cars or mortgage or whatever it is. Things are just more expensive. It's not changing. Like that's how it's been going for a long time. So having that relationship with, if I start saving some money now and invest it where it actually is growing, that $1 today could look like $5 or even $10 with enough time. Mm-hmm. So I think it's really the mindset of, the value of actually starting to save and invest and learning. Like there's lots of strategies to do that, but actually just having that habit. People feel like they need to have like a chunk of money to be able to start putting it into investments and doing these things. It's really not about the amount. It's more about the actual habit. Just like I've been making smoothies for 30 something years. And it's just, I wake up, I do my thing, I stretch, and then an hour and a half later, I have a smoothie. It's just so ingrained. Now I have certain money habits that took a long time to get there. Of course, I wish I had started them earlier. I've never met anybody who started saving money saying, oh, I wish I waited like 20 years. Like,
right.
Like everybody wishes they started earlier because there's this thing called compounding interest. It just grows. And so even if it didn't, you at least have this reservoir of buffer. So at the very least, one of the philosophies that I often talk about is saving, ideally to start with, is 10% of your net income. And some people might like really go, whoa, 10% of what I make. And this is like after taxes. So it seems overwhelming for some people who have no experience in doing that. Right. But when you look at, when you are my age, and I look the next 10 years, I'll be 61, and then you add another 10 years, that's 71. Most people want to retire when they're in their mid 60s. But the stats for most people in Western worlds, in America, it's most people will never be able to retire because they just haven't thought about this at all. And then they just find themselves working paycheck after paycheck or client to client, just thinking, oh, somehow this magically happen. But we get to actually be the magic and actually create that for our future. So yeah, just having the mindset. So maybe 10% seems overwhelming. If you can save $10 today, or challenge yourself to save maybe $100 in a week, or maybe just in a month. It's something that there's always money somewhere that we buy. I mean, I bought this mug years ago. Like, I don't know how many mugs I have in my cabinets. Did I need all of them? No, but that came from just the consumer old Dan Desmond. I still buy things, obviously, but now I just think about them a little bit more deeply. Is it really a deep need? And so not to be like, so I am just living on this straight budget, but just to go, some people tithe and they give, 5-10% of their income to their church or their organization, whatever it is. I always think of, this is kind of an analogy of that I like to think of, is there's a lot of like all the people who you pay, like people pay you as, they're your client, they pay you, but then you think about, like, we all have our cell phones. We pay for a cell phone provider. We pay for our mortgage or our rent. We pay for car insurance. We pay all the things we pay for. So I kind of start thinking about, okay, if they were lined up outside, where is that line? How far does that line go? There's probably 30, 40, 50 people, bills that we pay. Where are you?
No, that's such a good question. Yeah.
And so that future you, it's really your future you. Like most people, if they're even on the line at all, they're kind of towards the back. Like, I'm going to
Yeah.
make this money and pay off all my bills. And then if I happen to have any little, I'll put it at the end.
Yeah.
The difference that I've seen now working with a lot of people who have made it like really big in not only business, but in finance, is that they started saying, no matter what, I'm putting myself in the front line.
That is such a yes. And honestly, I have to say, for me as a business owner, it took me, I would say, at least halfway through owning my business to really understand this concept. It seems so simple when you talk about it. And once you get it, you know, you look back and think it wasn't that hard. But when you have something, whatever we've learned in our society, and even just as massage therapists, I think we tend to be such helpers and put others first. That's like the mentality of someone who's in the massage field a lot of times. I'm not trying to generalize everyone. I'm sure there are people on this call who, you know, have more of a balance, but it just tends to be the way that we are. It's like paying yourself first. That terminology to me was like this concept that I could just not wrap my head around. How? What does that look like? You know, when I'm on a shoestring budget, when I'm just making it, you know, how do I do that? And I don't know. I feel like you've been speaking to it, but I'd love to just talk about that piece a little bit more, because I imagine there are people who are feeling that way a little bit. Like, what do you mean? I'm barely making the rent. Like, how do I pay myself first?
Right. Right. Yeah. I've talked to plenty of massage therapists. I love like touching in and seeing different people's stories. Some people who are doing really well financially, some people are like just getting by. And I get it. Like, if I was starting out today, things are a little bit different. Like, there's still time for money and all that piece, but there's actually a lot of other ways to be able to make money too. So if you're starting out and you're doing, you know, maybe you're just starting out, you're either working for somebody else, they're paying you a lower wage, you're only seeing, you know, 5 to 10 clients per week. That's to get by on that is really challenging. And there's nothing wrong at all, zero, with having another job. Even most people, I just saw some stat about people making like the average 6-figure earner, $100,000 people earner, have a secondary side gig. Like, it's very normal. There used to be a day, 1955, 1960, where there would be the classic, you know, 1950s man who was a plumber, electrician, whatever. He had a house, wife, 2, 3 kids, car, and they got by. Like, now it's like curtailed. Now both, you know, man and wife or whatever relationship have jobs, like people live together and they have kids and they have a secondary job just to kind of make ends meet. So there's nothing wrong with having something else. And in fact, it's really wise to look at what is another piece. I figured at one point I had all my eggs in one basket. Like, when my son was born, I was like, wow, I've invested 100% into this field. And if I get sick, I get injured, I'm up the creek. Yeah. I had zero buffer. I didn't have anything saved. I didn't have any kind of protection of any sort, whether insurance, disability, anything like that. I didn't know about it. But because of those scenarios, I started going, oh, wow, how can I do that? So kind of back to your question, how do you get started savings? It's just actually going like, this is really, really important to me. And literally, like, everyone has something in their budget that they don't need. It's something that we want. I mean, most people have Netflix or the extra app on their phone or something. And so there's more ways to get creative of like finding one thing, or maybe you have a car that is a little bit too out of your range. I remember years ago, before massage school, actually putting myself through massage school, I drove for pizzas. You know, I delivered pizza and in my 20s, and I would go to these apartments and like dive kind of areas, like really not nice apartments. And I'd open the door, they'd get their pizza, and I'd see these full screen TVs, and they have like all the gaming stuff. And it's very clear that they had a priority of what they were spending their money on. And it was not a judgment. It was more like, oh, wow, like people have different priorities of where they put their resources. And some people, they drive a car that's maybe out of their budget. A lot of people think, oh, this person drives a fancy car, they must be loaded. Most of those people are severely in debt.
Absolutely. I think that's a good point. And if you don't mind my just giving a few thoughts here, like,
please.
I've known people who make well over six figures who are completely broke,
Yeah.
have no savings, nothing to show for it. So it can happen regardless of your income. I've also known people, one of my closest friends, who literally make like zero, not now, but in the past, zero money, and somehow are able to travel, do all the things they want to do, live the life that they want. They're choosing that in a very intentional way.
Yeah.
So if you're here thinking, I'm already overwhelmed, like this isn't for me, obviously these people are doing something that I can't do, that's not true. So, take a deep breath, stick with us, because you really can. And it's figuring out how to make that work for yourself. And sometimes I feel like what Dan's saying, and I don't want this point to get missed, and correct me if I'm wrong, and I don't want to speak for you, but is by sticking to a budget and maybe cutting out some things that you don't need. And this could be as small as, I think a thing we talked about on another call we were on, just you and I, was like, maybe you get Hulu with ads and you cut off, it might seem small, $5 a month, or I can't remember how much the difference is, versus the one without ads. It's like, even if you were just saving that little amount, that $5 a month or whatever, you're getting into a habit of putting that aside. You were going to spend it on Hulu without ads anyway. What if you did that with all your subscriptions? Maybe that adds up to $20 or $50 a month. You still have what you want. You're not depriving yourself of pleasure, because I'm not a fan of that either, financially, like just completely depriving yourself, maybe for a time if you're working towards a goal, but not like on a permanent habit basis. But finding those little places where you really can do, just maybe it's not perfect, it's not exactly what I want, but I'm still getting something that I enjoy, and I'm putting something aside. And really reframing the way you think about that too, because you're not really depriving yourself either by taking money from something that's pleasurable and putting it aside for something that's pleasurable later. I think I had a person who was in financials tell me once that it's delayed gratification, like practicing a bit of delayed gratification. You have this big goal, keeping that prize in mind, and even if it feels a little painful in the moment, once you get that new reality, it's not going to feel painful anymore. And that's not going to take that long. And then you get to enjoy the fruits of your labor, like that confident feeling that comes with having money in the bank in case something happens,
Right.
I think that's so important to think about, because it's hard in this world, like you said, of consumerism, being just pushed at you from all ways, your text messages, your social media, your everything, so it can be difficult to, I guess, put your mind in the right space to be able to do that sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the difference is, I see that when I've worked with like elite athletes and now people who run really big businesses, is the big piece really is there's more skill set, obviously, but a lot of it is mindset. A lot of it is like, okay, I'm not sure, back to the how piece, I'm not sure how I'm going to do that, but they keep on focusing of this. And the people who I've met who have made it really big financially, they just really set an idea of, I'd like my life to look like this in a certain amount of time. It's not going to be overnight. It's not going to be overnight. Like,
right.
But if I'm 300 pounds and I want to be half the weight, 150 pounds, like, it's not overnight, but it's
right.
every single day showing up, doing something, learning along the way, and going, like, it's just the hardest part of like getting healthy is, going to the gym is just going to the gym. Like, once you have that habit built up and built in, it's now you're like, oh, of course I do this. It's it's Tuesday, Thursday, Saturdays, or whatever your days are to do that. The same thing is, I think it's really, really important to have those challenging experiences, like in any kind of growth thing. Like, you start out with a garden and it's flat soil, there's nothing in it. It's like, you have to put in the right kind of nutrients in the soil, like get that going, and then you put in the seeds, and then it's just like, okay, then now you've got like the magic of the universe. Like, you've got the rain, you've got the sun, you've got all the components. But if you set it up correctly, it's not like, is it going to grow? Like, it's going to grow. And some seasons are going to be less than others, and some seasons are going to be bumper crops. So, and just knowing that, that's kind of like, I think of in terms of finances, like the stock market it's up and down. The overall projection is up, but some years it's really down, some years it's really up. So just going, okay, give myself a big picture kind of perspective, and I know for sure that this is going to happen, and just go with the flow with it and keep on learning.
Yeah, absolutely. I think those are great points. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'll do a little side note here and then we'll get back on our questions. I think you mentioned something about raising your prices, and this isn't the talk that we're talking about that, but I do just want to say that as a side note, like you mentioned, if you're working for someone else, you're only getting 5 to 10 clients a week, you're maybe not getting paid enough really to actually live. And I do think that even though we're not necessarily diving into that piece at this moment, I think it's really important, just because it's so common in our industry, to look at that in a realistic way, and maybe broaden out your horizons for what your options are. Like you said, if you have to have another job, then that's what has to happen. Or, if you're working for yourself, which I imagine a lot of people here are, and you're like doing what you feel everything is right, but you still can't pay yourself, you have to look at a couple things, either cutting back on, and I think right now I see this, like cutting back on in the comments. Thank you for these. That, cutting back on expenses or raising your income. And I think a lot of us are really afraid to raise our prices, and maybe we'll do another talk on that. But it is also a piece of that puzzle, right? Like you have to be realistic about building a sustainable practice that can actually support the life that you're trying to build. You did not start your business just to survive. And if your business only allows you to survive, it's not a sustainable business. And I think those are hard words to hear sometimes, but I think it's what needs to be said, is that you really have to sit down and take a hard look at your budget and your pricing and make sure that those actually align with the life that you're trying to create. And if not, it's time for a change,
Very much so. Yeah, a lot of people, they think too, oh, I'm going to go to school and all of a sudden just going to make it within a year. Or in most businesses, the people who actually really get really great traction, I remember that like 10-year marker. And it was not only, oh, this is my occupation, this is what I do. This is part of my lifestyle. This is who I am.
Built something now.
And then, and now it's like you've put in your work, you've put in all those, like staying later, getting there early, like doing the massage gigs on the side, and then all of a sudden your name gets out and you have a reputation and you start building that. Now people are advertising for you because of your services.
Right.
And people think in our industry, like, oh, I thought I'm not in sales, I'm not in marketing, I'm in advertising. I remember working with the coach years ago, and he said, do you have some people come in, they pay you? So yeah, of course. He said, well, you're in sales.
Yeah.
Do you you don't like put out ads on Facebook, but like somebody else tells them or tells other people about you? That's advertising.
Right.
Like, it's just, it looks different because we're giving, and that's the best approach. It's kind of like people who are great actors. You don't know if they're acting because it's so good. Same thing when you're in sales and you're doing it so well. Again, this is another subject, but it's the same mindset of actually raising your price as it is saving money.
Right.
Because it's the value add to yourself.
Yeah.
Like I think if I'm raising my price 10%, you can make 10% per year if you're putting it in the right place.
Right.
So even if you save 10% of your money and it grows 10%, that's another way of giving back to yourself. So it's really looking at like, what do I want my current life to look like, but also what does my future look like? And it's a lot of mindset. It's a lot of really self-love, discipline.
Yeah. I think those are great points. I feel like there's a lot of value in what you just said. I'm like, which direction do I want to go? Mindset or investments? I kind of want to pause and do investing a little bit, just because I don't think that's talked about very often in our industry. So, I don't know what you can offer on a super basic level that maybe someone who's literally never looked in that direction could take as a first step if they were wanting to learn or start even a little investment strategy.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of people look at like, okay, I'm saving money. Great. Awesome. Like, now what? If you put your money in the bank, they might maybe give you close to 1%, which is, there's this thing called the rule of 72. Albert Einstein talked about it. And it's really any percentage, let's say it's 1%, you divide into 72, you find out how long it takes you to double your money. So if I had, let's say, $10,000 and I put into an account, just a one-time thing. So I sold a car, I put it in there. It would, if I got 1%, it would take me 72 years to double my money, to make $20,000. Wait, obviously, just it gives you perspective. 1% stinks.
Yeah, very
yeah, but what banks do is they take people's money and go, okay, thank you very much. We'll take your money and we'll put it into this, even a savings account, like half of a 1% if you're lucky. Then they'll go ahead and put that money into other places. They put it into all kinds of investments that are making them typically anywhere from 7, 8, 10, 12, 15% annually. So knowing that, like, they know how to do it. If they're investing your money, there's a direct way that you can invest money. One way that's super easy for just about anybody is to put it into what is high yield savings account. So there's plenty of online high yield savings accounts. Sometimes even, like, I notice my PayPal, I forget if it's my regular PayPal or PayPal credit card, has 4% high yield savings account. So even if, and that's just basically keeping up with inflation, which is typically anywhere between 3 and 4% normally. The last couple of years have been way out of like normal, but it's in general 4%. So at least your money is not being devalued. And then from there, like, you can see, okay, at 4%, it's going to take 18 years for my money to double. So yes, it's shorter. It's not ideal, but at least that's a good starting point, so that, let's say something happens, you do get ill, or your tires blow out in your car, like that. When I hear stats of, only 40% of Americans have access to $400, like, not a credit card, they don't have access to $400. That's insane to me. Like, one of the most lucrative places in the world, it's basically money and habits, and just the education. So high yield savings account is a great way to start. There's plenty online. If you just Google high yield savings account, often they don't even have, like, you don't need to even put in $100. It might be $5 to start with.
Right.
I would Google that. There's the first Nerd Wallet is one of my favorite. It's called Nerd Wallet. They're like just one of those classic, you could see their compounding interest and all that kind of stuff, but that's a good place to start. And then a lot of people do feel like, and this is where I really get deeper into education when I meet with people one-on-one, and which I love to do. It's something that I don't charge for. In the past, when I was coaching, I would do, one-to-one sessions, and obviously there's a charge for that. But part of the platform I work with, we don't have the education in and of itself is free, which I love. And we can really look at, like, how money is grown, how money is taxed, what kind of risk assessment, like, where would you want to put it so that it can grow beyond that 4%.
Yeah. Amazing. That's so easy.
It's so easy.
I think I was expecting a more hard to do answer than that. So that's really cool. High yield savings. That's your guys' tip for where to put your money when you start saving it, even if it's a really low amount. So far that's what we've covered, right? Is part of it's mindset, part of it's building healthy habits, part of it is figuring out where to put your money once you actually start saving it. And then even if it's a tiny amount to start with, it's just about building that healthy habit with your money. So far that's what we've covered. Right. So I guess I want to jump back to the mindset question. I think we have covered it a bit. And if you guys have any questions, please go ahead and pop them in. And so I can make sure as we, we're more than halfway through the call. So I want to make sure if there's any burning questions or topics that I have those on my radar so we can cover them for you. But I'll continue on with my questions for now if you don't have any. Mindset blockers. I feel like we've covered it a lot already in the call, but I just want to intentionally make some space for that one. Have you noticed any common mindset blockers, we'll call it? I was going to say issues, but I don't think that's the right word, that are present in people in our industry? And do you have any tips for, one, how people can even recognize that they have that going on, and two, what they can do about it?
Yeah, for sure. Well, first of all, we all have them, period. Everyone, we have limited thoughts. If I think about being a baby, babies are just, they're not confident. They're not, introspective and shy. They're just babies. They're alive. And then we learn along the way somewhere to sit down and be quiet, or to pay attention, or to no, don't do that. And so those things, it's just part of growing up and being cultured and, in society. So at some point you start to realize, most people start to realize, like, oh wow, like they think, oh, I'm not good at people, or I'm not good at sales, I'm not good at this. And it is a mindset. It's completely and totally mindset. I've seen some people who were like myself. I was a super shy kid, and now people are like, my son's like, you don't shut up.
Me too. Yes.
It's like introvert to extrovert. Yes, I still get like resourced when I'm back more in nature, hence the background. But I can interact with people because I've pushed that. It's been like that growth edge. So first of all, just knowing like we all have limits in our mind, and even the best coaches I've seen, people like Tony Robbins, he said, when I first started out, I wasn't confident, but I started to see like my mentors, they were, and I asked them like, how do you do that? And they said, well, okay, just hang out with people who are, another step or 2 or 5 beyond you. So part of it is like, how do you make a shift? Start being around associations of people that are different. I always think of like, if you are an alcoholic and you're trying to get clean, like don't hang out at the bar. Like it's just
right.
inevitable. It's going to go to the health club, like go hang out and be in a group, like be around people who are doing something that is different than what you're already doing. So that's the biggest and easiest way to do it. Like just being in groups of people and changing. I have a series of habits now, just that are normal. Like with my body, I go out and I do like these Qigong movements in the morning. I do a like prayer meditation thing in the morning. It's just something to set my mind out right. I do deep breathing. I choose like 2 or 3 things to start my day, because the way you start your day is the way that your day like goes. And then when you finish up and you actually look at like, what did I accomplish? A lot of people just, instead of like looking at and tracking their productivity or just how they were in the world today, they just, submerge themselves in, it's so easy to just scroll and to just be entertained. But it's a discipline to go back and go, oh, what did I learn today? And what did I actually fail at today? Like to me, failure is an opportunity to learn. But when I go like the better, that this is where I was really caught up for years and years and years. I wanted it to be perfect. I wanted to know how to do it. I wanted it to be so good, but that really causes people to not move ahead. And when I think about back to the baby analogy, like babies eventually will walk when they're, 2 months old. They can't even imagine I'm going to be walking, but then 2 years later they're running. But it's because they got up and fell and got up and fell. And then they went 2-3 steps. And same thing with life, whether it's your health, your wealth, your business, whatever it is, your relationships, you just keep on getting back in there and going, you know what, like I'm going to learn more. I'm going to track myself. And then from there, it's just one step after another. And all the mentors I've ever worked with just say, look, it's the consistency. It's being around other people who are doing things bigger and brighter than what you're at. Be the dumbest person in the room.
Yeah.
Like, and that to me is like when I feel like I'm a hard worker, I'm the hardest worker, there's somebody else out there, or I'm the brightest, or I'm the smartest, or I'm the healthiest. It's like, if I really want to elevate where I'm at, just be around other people who are higher than you are.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with that. And you hear that from a lot of people who are very successful, that's part of their universe. Being around people who are smarter than them, looking up to mentors, and those daily habits. I mean, I don't know how many books there are about the successful habits or the habits of highly successful people, or whatever, name you want to give it. But there's a ton of those types of readings out there. So that says something alone. I really like, the theme that I feel like you keep coming back to, which is that it's really about those tiny habits. And I love the thought, which is something that I feel like we all get caught up on a lot, that you don't have to be perfect. You also don't have to know the entire strategy or all the skills right now, and you're probably going to mess it up. Thinking about what you failed at today, you cannot fail at anything if you aren't trying anything. So I think that's a really good point. It's like, if you're failing at something, that means you're getting out there, you're taking risks, you're trying new things, and maybe some of them aren't working, but that's good information for you. It doesn't reflect on your character. It's just that either you need more skills, it wasn't the right thing for you, whatever the case may be. But I think it's such a key point in that. And I see that Jane's making the same comment here. It's like, yes, greater success will come from all those tries and mistakes and things that you make. And you and I are both testaments to that, right? Just from your intro and my experience as well. Cool. The other thing I was going to say is to an earlier point that you made and to this one. So you said, you started to feel like, okay, 10 years into my business, I'm feeling like this is my career. Like, this is what I'm doing. This is what I've invested in. This is my business. I've created something here, and I started to feel that way around my 10-year mark as well.
Mm-hmm.
Went a different direction, obviously, kind of pivoted at that point. But I have noticed that that is true for a lot of people. And I'll focus on our industry alone, just massage therapists that I work with who are successful or not, that kind of thing. It's like, I think it's important because we don't have a lot of industry standards to talk about what should you expect as a massage therapist in business. And I know that a lot of business mentors that I had when I was building my business, who weren't necessarily massage therapists, but had a lot of experience in other types of entrepreneurial businesses, said you really shouldn't expect to be profitable until about the 3-year mark. And that's very dependent, of course, for everyone's different circumstances. But I think even just thinking about it that way, because we do tend to get so frustrated and downtrodden, especially if we've started out with no back money to hold us while we're working, is that it's okay if the beginning isn't exactly what you want it to be. Don't let that make you quit. The fact that you don't have money right now, or even if you're in a lot of debt or whatever the case may be, you're struggling, that doesn't mean that you never won't be in that place. So starting to make some small changes, or even just continuing on, if you're consistently showing up, doing the right things, then you're gonna get there, so I hope that gives you a little hope. I know it can be hard sometimes, especially because being a business owner is so isolating, which is also part of why we do these chats and have the Facebook groups and that kind of thing. It's just good to remember that most people don't walk out the door of massage school, start a massage business, and then find themselves in their glorious dream. It takes a lot of hard work and years of putting in those habits. So I know it's not like the most magic pill that you're going to get, but I think it is part of what we're talking about here today, is that it's just, it doesn't happen overnight, but with putting some small things in place, you will get there.
I think that's really true for a lot of industries, that people think, like I have my dentist who I go to, and she was actually a client of mine before she became my dentist. And I saw her go through school, and then years later, she's very successful, and that's what it looks like on the outside. And she is. And she also has $350,000 of student loans, and she has a big house, and she has a Tesla X, and she has a this, and she's payroll, and it's like, okay, wow, like what it looks like to be successful on the outside. Some people, there's a great what's the book, the Millionaire Next Door, and it talks about how most people who are actually doing very well, some people get to a showy phase, it's just part of the piece of it. But most people who actually feel like they need to show off, it's this initial phase of like just accepting where they're at and going, oh, I really want to do this. For most people are actually very quiet about it, and they're just building something on the side, whether it's like they're an employee and they have 401k, they put money into their house, whatever that is. But we all start from somewhere, and it's so super important to just really honor that space that we're at, and to know that, like, most people after, 10-year marker, 90% of businesses are gone.
Right.
If you've been in the field for 5 years, 50% of the businesses are gone. So if you've gotten that far, like, you're already way steps above where other people are at. So if you feel like you're getting stuck, you're getting challenged, totally normal. It's supposed to happen. Like, those are the things that are going to enable you to grow and to pivot. And I know for myself, when I, around kind of about 5-6 years ago, I started going, well, is there another way I can add value, not only to my physical massage therapy clients, but also to other people in the field? When I started coaching other people for business, that kind of veered me into, I could actually help them with their financial profile. Like, what does that look like in the big picture? Like, it was scary because I can go back and, pound out 25 massages a week and, make $100,000 a year. I know how to do that really, really well. It took me a long time to figure that out.
Right.
But that coming back to going like, I actually want to pivot and do something different. When I have a little bit more of a buffer, but like a bigger dream, I can actually really do it. And it does help to have that like financial buffer for sure, but it's okay to pivot. Like it's
Yeah.
okay to go, oh, I'm great at this. The people I see who get really good at other businesses is because they did a different business. Like
Yeah.
they have more confidence from that. They know how to work with people. They know how to, it's a people helping business no matter what you're doing if you're
Right.
actually working with people. So
Yeah, definitely.
hopefully that helps somebody who might be going, oh wow, like I want to do something else. The people who come into businesses and just all of a sudden seems like they just do great. It wasn't overnight. They put in their effort
100%.
somewhere.
And if you see someone like that and you're wondering, was that their story? I'm pretty sure most people would be willing to share their background story with you. So if that is a thing for you, I recommend reaching out, because the times that I have done so, I've been pleasantly surprised and inspired by what I've heard on the other side.
Yeah.
We have a question here, which I want to go ahead and pop in because we're getting close. We have about 5 more minutes. So can you talk about financial freedom number? And I can get clarity if you need more. Maybe say what it is and how you support people in finding that.
Sure. Yeah. So a lot of people, I have a client from years ago who worked for the VA, put a lot of time and effort into it. He'd done side jobs and made all this money, and he just kept on working because he got so used to working all the time. And he never came up with what they call either a financial independence number or FIN number. And really, it's the number to look at. Like if you have a certain lifestyle, let's say your rent or your mortgage is this much, okay, I need about $5,000 a month or so to live. Like that $5,000 a month today is going to look different in 20 years just because of inflation. But in general, if you know your lifestyle, you don't need to become a multi-millionaire or billionaire to live the way you want to live. You can at least go, okay, I know it's going to, at some point, I'm going to start wanting to curtail how much I'm actually working, whether because I need to or I want to, but to have that option. So then it's just simple math and algorithm. So for most people, let's say they do want a $5,000, monthly income. At some point, that's going to come from not you employing yourself, but actually your money being employed. So we can figure out super simple. It's just an algorithm, like taking in your expenses, your income, what your habits are, and then looking how much money do you need to start saving today? Not the big picture, like you need this mountain of money, but how much money do you need to start putting aside today to start building up that habit so that one day, whether you're 65, 70, whatever the retirement age is, and most people who are retired, they're still going to be working because they love it. Like at least it gives people the option to go, okay, how do I actually start doing that? So it's really just how much money will I need to be able to, because money will make money if you're putting in the right places. And basically what you're doing is being able to employ your money so that you're living off of the interest of your money. So if your money's making back at the high yield savings account 4%, not a very great interest to be able to live off of it if inflation is 3 or 4%. So we look at accounts that get like 8, 9, 10, 12%. So that 4% of inflation, now you're able to live off of like 8%. So we look at like, how do we put in this much money today so that one day when you do retire, your money never runs out?
Yeah.
If you live to be, healthy, 95, 100 years old, your money will never run out. It's a super easy way to figure that out. That's why I love meeting with people one-on-one, because we can start out by figuring that FIN number out and then curtailing and going, okay, what can you start adding and putting to the side today to get to that number? Does that make sense?
I think that makes sense. Valerie, let us know if you have more questions about that. And I'm going to put Dan's handle for Instagram into the chat right now. That way you just have it. And I will also put it in the Instagram chat. And that way, if anyone is interested in kind of getting a more personalized look at what that looks like for you, because it is going to be different for every person. I have people say this to me all the time, I don't necessarily care about making 6 figures. I just want this. And I think that is really important to our industry to say, not everyone's version of success, financial or otherwise, is going to look the same, nor does your circumstances financially look like everyone else's. So that's why I think the key is really getting a look at your personal budget and your goals and taking a look at what the options are for you. I think that's a great question. I see the question about the language to communicate price increases without going into your overall budget as far as explaining. And I actually think what I want to do with that question, just because we're getting a little low on time, is I want to answer that one separately. So I will do that in the Facebook group. So the Massage Boss community, if you're part of that, I will answer it there. And I will also answer it on my Facebook page. So Julie Campbell Facebook page. That way you can find it there. But yeah, Valerie said that makes sense, and thank you. So what we did not cover today, I'm going to start wrapping up a little bit just because we're getting right close to time. But what we did not cover today, which maybe we'll do a part 2 on, because I think it could be, if you're up for it, it could be a whole topic in and of itself, is just how to deal with financials and plan for situations that are unexpected. That could be, I like what you said yesterday when we were chatting. It could be economics, it could be inflation, it could be, something like COVID, but it also could just be a life event that takes you out of being able to massage. That happens all the time. So we did not get time to do that. And I apologize for anybody who was hoping to hear more about that, but we'll definitely schedule another chat where we can dive more into those pieces. Please do reach out to us if you have questions that we didn't cover here that you were hoping to see. I know we're both super open to connect with people and answer questions. Like Dan said, he does meet with people one-on-one. There's no cost for that, which is an amazing service. Also, you should follow Dan anyway, because he shares all kinds of cool, interesting things about finances that you can't really find otherwise in our community. And he's a massage therapist. So those are 2 rare skills to have together. I want to thank you all for being here so much. And Dan, especially to you, I really feel so inspired and invigorated by this conversation. Like, I love it so much. It's a big passion of mine, financials, and just, I think we all deserve financial security. So I think the work that you're doing is really important, and I appreciate you for all that you do for our community.
Thank you. I feel really grateful to have this opportunity. And yeah, like Julie said, anybody who wants to reach out, it's actually, instead of being like in a place of being fearful, it's actually can be a lot of fun. And that's why I like to add like the fun factor to a lot of the finances, because often it's like, just breathe. You got to breathe anyway. You got to make money. Might as well make it work for you.
Yeah. Might as well have a little fun with it. Definitely. Yeah. Definitely. Make sure you subscribe. I'm not trying to become an influencer here, just mostly trying to keep the community informed. So subscribe so that you know when future events like this are coming up, and so you can learn when the part 2 with Dan is coming up as well. And if you have anything that you'd like to see me cover, or anyone that you'd like to see me speak with, please reach out to me. So my handle on Instagram is Massage Business Coach. Again, I put everything in the details of the YouTube video as well, and it will be here for you to rewatch if you didn't get to catch the whole thing. Thanks so much again, Dan, and everyone have a great day. We look forward to connecting with you at some point in the future.
Awesome.
Thanks.